and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Would be nice.
Our first business, we need to approve accept the minutes from January 14th, public hearing and regular board meeting of the town board. I need a motion to, has everybody had a chance to look at everything?
Yes.
I need a motion to accept the minutes for the public hearing and the regular board meeting in the town board dated January 14th. Do I have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
I have a motion.
I'll second.
I have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Aye, it's carried. Because I know a lot of people just don't want to follow the rest of the meeting tonight, so what we'd like to do is have the people from the 4 Mile of the West Branch who have concerns about the oil and gas business to, we'll do your section first. We've got a lot of things going on, not necessarily at this point, but later on after you finish. So we have a lot of business to carry on tonight that we had scheduled even before we had talked to you. But anyways, we'd like to spend about 15 minutes if we could. And to get us started, I'll read you a couple of things that I got. One is from Michelle, who is with Dimes Energy. And his note to me was, I'm not in town this week. We will have people present, namely Matt LeBlanc, Eric Ferkel, who is, well, Matt is the Director of Field Operations. Eric Ferkel is the legal counsel, and possibly Sean Woodring. I see one person here. Who else is here tonight?
I'm Eric and this is Matt.
Eric and Matt are here. Matt LeBlanc and Eric Ferkel. Eric is with Shane Ferkel.
Yep, that's right.
So, anyways, they will be here. Also, I have a note from Eric Wohlers, who's with the Cattaraugus County Health Department. I'll read you the entire notice of what he sent me. And it says, "Hi Jim, thanks for calling. And let's see, and thanks for checking up on our well water testing efforts with West Branch residents. As I mentioned, neither Tim nor I plan to be at your board meeting tomorrow night. But if area residents have any further questions or concerns about their well water quality, you can feel free to tell them the following. The New York State DEC investigation into water well contamination and abandoned oil wells and new drilling is still actively going on. Field investigations take time, especially during winter months. Official results from the New York State lab have been received from the first round of sampling, and these confidential, and he talked to me on the phone about this too, he says it's very confidential. Those reports have been shared with individual homeowners and the DEC. They would not share that information because of the confidentiality, so they will not talk to the town or anyone other than DEC and those individuals that have their wells tested. Number 3, he said, we have recently received permission from the Department of Health for a second round of sampling. This will be carefully coordinated with DEC investigators in the next few weeks. If any residents notice a sudden shift in water quality, as in taste or odor, feel free to refer them to either Tim or me at Cattaraugus County Health Department's Olean office. So if you have problems that have cropped up in the last few days or last week or so, or in the future, make sure that you get to Eric Wohlers. He's the one who will be answering questions. I'm not, to be honest, I'm not sure who Tim is. I don't know if I've met him or, you know, Tim might be with the health department. Doesn't have a last name.
I believe that's one of the people that was at one of our November meetings.
Okay, yeah, that could very well be, I've forgotten about. But it might just be Tim, so anyways. I also talked with Chris Miller. They will not be represented. His answer to my question, will you attend? He said that any permission to attend any meeting like this has to be approved through Albany, and they did not approve him coming to this meeting. So that was his answer on that part. However, I had a couple of things I think Judy Capozzi maybe asked, I can't remember now. Did you ask about the water on the road and so on. This is kind of old information. But anyways, somebody had complained about
Yes.
water on the road and so on and wondered what it was, or no, liquid on the road and wondered what it was. And his answer was, it was just plain clean water. And from what he said, that was water that was going to be used in the sweeper. Evidently, there was a lot of dust available for billowing and so on the road, and he wanted to make sure it was wet down so it would not be quite as dusty. He also said there have been no new permits and no new applications applied. So at this point, what you're seeing today is probably the way it is. And there, he did not know of any future things that were gonna happen. It just happens when it happens. But at this time, no new applications, no new permits have been issued. So that should be a comfort to some. The only other thing he got into talking, things that were more, I don't know if it's even important, but I talked more about fracking when I talked with him. He says about 50% of what the work is being done out there, that has been done, 50% is drilled wells and 50% are fracked wells. That was just his estimate. I don't know how accurate that is, but at any rate, that was his answer. That's all the communication I've received as far as what's happened in the past and what's expected to take place in the future, what's going on today. So I guess, like I said, we'll allow 15 minutes or so, and you can ask questions of, of Matt, I'm sorry, just the name. And if you have other questions or statements or concerns, you're welcome to enter, whatever you would like to say. We will record that. Thing is that this is not a regular public hearing. This is just a courtesy of letting you come in and express opinions and so on. The town itself will not render any opinions back simply because we've been told that I know you don't want to hear it, but we've been told by a couple of different attorneys that we are not, well, we can't give out anything that we aren't legally allowed to do. We just aren't in the driver's seat, let's say. It appears that DEC is the one to direct your questions to. And he told me that you can stop down and talk to them here on Union Street anytime you want. So I would say, by all means, if you have questions, ask them. But we do have someone here from Dimes who I'm sure can answer some of the questions. So by all means, ask and see what.
I thought, I was under the impression that fracking was banned in New York State.
No, that's actually not true. Fracking has gone on in New York State since about the 1960s. There's not really a ban on fracking. What it is, it's a ban in the amount of water that you can use in the fracking. And what it does is it makes it so that you can't do those super deep wells that are like 4,000 feet deep in Pennsylvania, where they, so that, because there's a limitation in the amount of frac fluid that you can use. Matt's more of a technical guy than I am on this, but correct me if I'm wrong. I think it's 80,000 gallons.
We can frack it up to 1,500 barrels.
But yeah, so in New York State you can still frack, and it's gone on for years, and essentially every well that's been drilled at least since the late 80s has been fracked. But they're not using those super high amounts of liquid that have led to that seismic activity out that they report out in Oklahoma and stuff like that, and the super deep stuff in Pennsylvania. So that's what's not happening in New York. But
So fracking is allowed with exceptions.
yeah, hydrofracturing is permitted in New York. Just there are parameters on it, and we always stay within those parameters. Actually, we stay well below those parameters.
Yeah.
Are you still allowed to use the same chemicals that they use in the deep wells?
That's a good question. I'd have to defer to the DEC on that. We put our frac plans together and they're approved by the DEC. I don't know if the DEC bans certain stuff, but what we're doing is everything that we've done has been to the letter of the rules of the DEC, and they're on site. Matt can tell you from beginning to end. So yeah, So I don't know the answer to that. I know every state is a little bit different. Like Pennsylvania might allow different things than Oklahoma and Colorado and all that, but what we use is approved by New York State. So
The permits, is that per well or is that per parcel?
no, in New York we have to permit every single well.
Okay,
So yeah.
so there's no new permits out, so it was shut down how are they drilling to get on the Porterfield property?
Well, there are several permits that have already been issued, and only some of the permits have been temporarily suspended. That's the current
Which
state of
ones?
affairs.
Would they gotta blow up another house before they shut that area down again?
No, actually, the area that has been, the area that's been suspended has a couple of old wells on it that we had nothing to do with, and they're doing some investigation as to, it appears as though those old wells may have been the source of this problem. So the DEC is looking into that and doing an investigation into that to determine if that's the issue, and so that's why they're temporarily suspended, so that they can do.
What about all the old pipelines that run out of those old wells that used to run down to the creek, which I got one line running down my creek when they used to pick up down in the 4-1. Nobody knows where these pipes are at.
Yeah, well,
What about those?
I know there's a lot of that out there because there's been oil and gas production here since the late 1800s. We have nothing to do with those, and that's, I don't want to speak for
You
the.
certainly do. You're out there drilling. You blew up the man's house.
We did
What do you
not.
mean you have
We
nothing to
did
do
not. You see, this is a problem that we've
You did
had.
that one?
Excuse me, we're not going to.
This is
Each other here, please. This is informational.
It's all right. I'll answer the question. Dimes has been here. We've come to these meetings. We've followed the letter of the law with the DEC. We've been on site. We've been there with investigators from our insurance company, from Mr. Volz's insurance company. There were 3 or 4 people from the DEC. There were people there from the DEC's criminal investigation unit. And I can tell you that they are investigating this. They are looking at some potential causes of this. But they've reiterated to us on numerous occasions that they are not looking at us as the cause of this, as the proximate cause of this. They are not looking at us as a suspect in anything untoward, and that we have followed every single thing that they've asked us to do, and we're going to continue to do that. So Dimes is doing a lot of activity up there, but the thing is, what we're doing is, Matt, I think with Mr. Chippecracken does a very good job on his stuff too up there, but with us and him, it's all brand new. It's all to the new DEC regulations. The water collection units are correct. We have alarms on everything. So it's the new stuff is the good stuff. It's some of that old stuff that you're talking about that's a problem. And those are some legacy problems that have existed for 80 years in New York State.
And it's been there for 80 years, and then you guys come in and start disturbing all this.
Sir, I can tell you that I've spoken with the DEC investigators. They've had people down from up in the Rochester area. They've had people in from Allegheny County doing an investigation of this, and they have reiterated to us that they are doing an investigation of this, but they are not looking at us as the cause of this, and they have reiterated that they have no suspicion whatsoever that we've done anything wrong.
How deep do you go with them wells?
1,300 to 2,000.
1,300 to 2,000.
How old are the old ones?
Our wells?
No, the old oil wells that's been
Existing
around there.
ones.
Oh, they're,
1,000 to 1,500 feet.
yeah,
You
they're
don't know?
1,000 to 1,500?
1,000 to 1,500 in this area. There are some in limestone that I know are only about 900 feet deep.
Yeah.
So,
Did anybody do a study to find out where the old oil wells were before you started drilling?
yes, we
All of
do.
these, so you can tell us where all the old oil wells
Any
are?
places we're actually developing.
Yeah, anywhere that we're actually developing, we have surveyors go out there. They survey it. The DEC looks at our surveys. They compare our surveys to the New York State maps. In fact, if you go on the county GIS website, if you pick the right filters, you can actually see where all the old wells are, the plugged ones, the abandoned ones. And and the DEC makes us go in there and plug anything that's even close to where we're drilling. And we've spent hundreds of thousands of dollars so far on plugging old wells.
But the, that was in the late 1800s, in the early 1900s, and DEC didn't start keeping records until like 1980. So there are many wells that may not even be reported.
Yeah, well, when we do our title searches on the properties that we're on, you can generally tell from the history of the property if there have been old leases on it. And if there are, we have our guys on the ground do a very thorough job to make sure that they find where these old wells are so that we can get them plugged. Because we're doing it for safety, but we're also doing it for our own self-interest. Because if those wells aren't plugged, our drilling and our frac plans aren't going to work as they're supposed to. So, it's in our interest, as well as everybody else's interest, that we find those old wells and we plug those old wells. So yeah, we do a very thorough job, and I mean, we have surveyors up there, and we have, the Morrises up there.
What is the plugging process? How do you do that?
Matt can speak to that, but you have to pull the rods out and the tubing out, so you have to pull out the pipe and the casing where it was. And if you have a log for the well, you basically know where they were producing it, and you basically run concrete down there.
You know, concrete, gel, gravel, concrete, gel in every single stage to seal it off.
Yeah, and yep.
How far were those abandoned wells that they're looking into from your drilling and fracking?
I want to say it was at least a half a mile.
Yeah.
Oh gee, so are you looking around like a half a mile from your wells before you drill and frack to see if there's other abandoned wells?
Generally speaking, no, half a mile is a very long way for one of our projects to communicate with it.
Uh-huh.
So, and I can tell you that it looks like the well that was involved in Mr. Volz's house explosion was probably about 50 yards from his house, where that one was. So, I mean, it's, so yeah, we generally do not, we aren't required to look that far away.
How far are you required to look?
That's a good question.
Well, we usually go within a 400-foot radius of what we're drilling, because our fracks typically reach out 250 feet.
It's yeah, it's about a 400 foot radius, but if there's something close to that, like a 5 to 6, we'll generally go in there and take care of that too.
Can you talk a little bit about your method that you use to find wells? Do you use ground penetrating radar or magnetic surveys, or
To find old wells in the ground,
to look in that 400 foot radius? How do you look?
it was generally now.
Historical logs, and then we have land surveying it with actually walking the property.
Yeah, we do physical inspection as well as the historical record. We look to the title search and that. Like, for example, some of our properties have been previously produced. Some of them really haven't ever been produced, and so it's very easy to tell that there's nothing on it. So, but yeah, generally physical inspection, and we have our surveyors out there.
Like I had said, we only have a limited time. I'll take another question. One thing that I was going to mention too was someone had asked about the noise ordinance and so on and so forth, and Mrs. Shively.
Yeah.
And the decibel level that's allowed in the town is 40 decibels. We don't know what the decibel level is on that, and I don't know of anybody right offhand who can do that measuring, but I know, once again, DEC gets involved in noise, and they have the instruments and so on to work with it. So there again, I would say go to DEC. But we have one more question.
I'm not sure if it should be directed to you or the DEC. So you mentioned there was a second series of testing going on in the next few weeks. I'm just wondering, how do you determine which ones are going to be tested?
We do not, this is the town board, the DEC has jurisdiction over permitting.
But you don't know how that's determined, where you're sampling?
The health department will not give us information as to whose wells or what the results were, so you would have to talk with it.
Okay, and then to you, have you had any spills up on Boulder Ridge?
Spills, I don't have any registered spills.
At the very, very top, 1 year ago we did.
Approximately 1 year ago.
And did it come down to the Boulder Ridge Creek?
I'm reading on the creek.
Yeah, it was
Because
reported
is there still evidence there of that
It was
today?
reported DEC, they monitored the cleanup and approved it when it was done.
Gotcha. So I spoke to Matt on that. That's more his department. Yes, there was one reported spill. We reported as we were supposed to. DEC carefully monitored the cleanup, and they approved it when the cleanup was
Okay,
completed.
because I have a tenant up there, one of my rentals, and he said he could still smell it very heavily.
Gotcha. Well, I would encourage you to definitely report that to DEC, and we'll work with them to do whatever we have to do to, if that's what caused it, we'll certainly do what we can to take care of that. So.
I got one question. We heard there was a 600-gallon spill over on the tank farm behind Albert Putz's place. Is that true or not?
Not that I'm aware of, I don't know anything about it.
Okay. We did hear rumors there was.
I had heard the rumor briefly, but just one little thing, and
Nothing came out of it.
no, I mean, it was nothing that I knew of, or anything. We didn't have any problems over there on the putt farm.
And if it was a spill, or there is a spill on any of these tank farms, are they all contained in the dike around the tank farms and not
Yeah.
to hold whatever's in there?
Yeah, they're all lined with pit liner. The tank batteries have to be built to hold the capacity of the tanks. And so, I mean, they're designed not to let anything escape that berm that you see around there.
And that's actually one of the new rules and regulations that's come down over the last 10 years. That, like, in the old days, they would, if you had basically you'd have one tank, and in that tank you'd get water and you'd get oil. In the old days, they just opened it up until the water was gone, and once the water was, they let it run right on the ground, and once it started hitting oil, they'd close it, hook it up, and pump the oil out. So we've certainly come a long ways, and none of Dimes' stuff is anything like that. All of our stuff complies to the latest rules and regs, promulgated by New York State, and I can tell you that this certainly isn't this is a very regulated state to do business in, and I mean we're happy to be here. We're happy to be a part of it, but we definitely adhere to everything we have to, and we're happy to do that.
Thank you for your
I have a question for
information.
the board.
I'm-
I have a question for the board.
I have a question for the board too.
I'll take something for the board.
I have something.
Okay,
I had talked with the assessor, you said that you guys, at one of the meetings, didn't have anything to do with the taxes and the valuations of our home, so I did go down and talk with the assessor, and she said she was going to be tracking buys, sells, whatever.
yeah,
What about the ones that there's no paper trail?
the buys and sells, there
Well,
should be a
like
paper
the
trail.
Pauls, they had somebody that was interested in their home and then backed out, never went to paper trail, so,
We don't know what the individual contract was or anything, which is, of course, is private information with the buyer and seller, but.
is that something that we can get to the board, like
But we don't-
correspondence?
I guess the question, I'll try to make this as quick as possible, we're really out of time here. But it usually will take, it depends on how often that one particular property changes hands. It would be nice to have more than one property change hands, because sometimes, how do I say it, beauty's in the eyes of the beholder. However, if a house sold, let's say in December, and it sold again next July, or, well, that's December, let's say it was 2 years ago, and it sold again today, we would then know what the house sold for then, and if it sold again today, that would give you an idea, within reason, of what the situation has done to values. However, you can't they don't just have numbers. It's something that has to be tried with a buy and a sell on the same piece of property before they'll come up with a difference in what that property would sell for. Possibly you could go to a different county or a different town or something like that and get information. I don't know, they would have to know about the market and so on in other towns. So it sounds like a cop-out, but it's just a guess. Sometimes it's just an opinion of the buyer or the seller as to what the price ends up to be.
But the assessor said that she was going to track it though. But I asked her
Oh, yes.
how could she track it if there was no paper trail?
She can't, she'll be tracking the sales.
Pardon?
She'll be tracking the sales.
Tracking
But what if
sales,
there was not a sale, they backed out before?
She won't be involved
then
in
she
that.
wouldn't have any
But is there any
information.
correspondence that can be sent to the people on the farm rail, so if that happens, I mean, we might run into that
If they
situation.
bought their house a year or two ago and it sells next month, that would be a
No, I mean
sale.
if someone backs out before it
Backing
goes to
out,
paper.
That happens all the time. I really don't know if that would have an effect on value, I mean, a usable value. So, yeah. But, I'm sorry, I really hate to do this, but we do have other pieces.
Sir, I mean, I've answered a lot of questions. If I could just make a brief statement, and then I'd be happy to stay a little later if anybody has any questions.
But, and I don't mind if you're out in the hallway and you want to talk amongst yourselves, that's
Sure.
fine.
If we have a question for the board in our time, well, how do we give you our question then on a normal basis? If we have a limited time now?
Yeah.
So how do we get our question to you?
We will take questions, email, regular mail. Any questions that you have there in writing, we will make sure that we bring it up at a future meeting and get back to you. That would help.
At a future meeting?
Oh, yeah, if you send an email, we can get right back to you, hopefully, if we are in agreement as to answer your question. So, I'm sorry.
Oh, no, that's okay. Just very, 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 very briefly, I'll stay out here. Dimes is, we want to be a good neighbor. We followed all the rules and regulations as we're supposed to. And one thing that's very important too is we've actually offered our assistance to the DEC in their investigation. We've offered our assistance. We've offered financial assistance to them if they have to when it comes to investigating these old adjacent wells. So we're doing everything that we can. We'll continue to do so. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them outside.
Let me
Thank you
ask,
for
so
coming
everyone
down.
can hear this before we go. Would your offering your assistance, would you agree to give water tests to everybody on the road?
I've spoken with them, and I've spoken to Eric Wohlers, and we're certainly willing to contribute to that and to help get that done, yes.
That would, is something that everybody needs to
Yeah,
get done.
we can, yeah, we definitely talked about contributing to that, so that is something we're willing to do. Yep.
Do we do that through the county, through Eric? Or through you, or through?
I'll tell you what,
Because I was told I would have to spend $300 per property that I have to do that. My own personal money.
let me get back to you. I'll give you my number and give me a call, I'll talk to the guys.
Can I just mention one thing as you're leaving? Anyone who did not sign in, there's a sign-in sheet out in the hall. Please make sure you